Now, here's the reality. For some of your committee members, they won't even look at it until the night before, or if your proposal defense is in the afternoon, that morning before. It just depends on how long it is and what their role is on the committee. So the dissertation proposal is so important. It's important because it gives you an opportunity to go over your research with your committee. It also is an opportunity to practice presenting and defending a proposal, which helps prepare you for your dissertation defense. So in today's video, I thought I'd take a couple of minutes and go over 5 tips I have for you to successfully complete your dissertation proposal defense. So tip number 1 is about the paperwork and deadlines. It's really important that you understand what paperwork is due in advance and what the deadlines are for submitting that paperwork. So what I want you to do is I want you to communicate with your chair and find out exactly what paperwork is due and if they need to submit the paperwork or if you do. So at the institution I worked, it was necessary for the paperwork to go in from whoever the dean's rep was. They were responsible for all of that. But there were deadlines that me and my students had to meet in order for them to be ready for the proposal defense, at least for the graduate school to be ready for the defense. So you want to make sure that you have the paperwork, you have all the signatures that you need from on it, and you'll also want to make sure that you submit it by the deadlines that have been set up either by your department or by the graduate school. So tip number 1 is always make sure you know what paperwork needs to be submitted and submit all of that by the deadline. And tip number 2 is about getting your written proposal to your committee. So there are rules again, deadlines and rules around when your committee is supposed to get a copy of your written proposal. Now, I'm saying this for those of you that are writing a 3-chapter dissertation proposal. For some of you, it may just be a document that your committee has asked you to produce that kind of outlines or plans for what your proposal or what your research will have in it. If you're writing a 3-chapter dissertation though, those first 3 chapters are your proposal. And what you want to do is get that to your committee at least 2 weeks in advance. Now again, your institution may have different rules. Maybe your institution says you have to have it to them 21 days before your defense. I'm saying a good rule of thumb is 2 weeks in advance. Make sure they get a copy of the edited version of your proposal so that they have it available to read at least 2 weeks in advance. Now, here's the reality. For some of your committee members, they won't even look at it until the night before, or if your proposal defense is in the afternoon, that morning before. It just depends on how long it is and what their role is on the committee. But you want to make sure you get it to them in advance so they have enough time to review it, write comments, and come prepared to ask you questions during your proposal defense. So tip number 2, make sure that your proposal is actually submitted to your committee at least 2 weeks in advance. And tip number 3, your presentation should be clear, concise, and compelling. What should be clear from your presentation is exactly what you're proposing for your research. So make sure that you're covering everything your chair has told you needs to be in that proposal, but you want to be crystal clear for your committee and for your chair exactly what your research method is. You should be clear about the procedures that you're going to follow, and your presentation itself should follow a clear format in order for your committee to understand what you are proposing for the research. Be concise. Don't take an hour and a half to do a proposal presentation. Now, if your chair tells you it should be an hour and a half, follow your chair's direction. What I had my doctoral students do is just have 12 slides. I know, but it helped them be concise. Have 12 slides. And in those 12 slides, they had to cover all of the points that were necessary for the committee to understand clearly what they were proposing for their research. They were not to go over 25 minutes for their presentation, and the rest of the time, or the majority of time, was spent in conversation with them about their research between the committee and the researcher, the student, the doctoral student. It was a conversation about what their research was, and that gave more time for the committee to give their recommendations. So again, I will say be concise. And what I mean by compelling is your research presentation should be compelling enough to have your committee excited by the research that you're doing. It should leave them wanting to know what the results are from those research questions that you're asking. All of it should be compelling enough that it leaves them wanting more out of your presentation. And so for me, tip 3, be clear, concise, and compelling. Tip number 4, run mock presentations. It's really important that you take some time and practice what you're going to say in that presentation. Now, unfortunately, most dissertation proposal defenses are not open to the public. And that's because this is usually a doctoral student's first opportunity to present about their research. And so you don't get a chance really to go and view a bunch of them before you actually do your presentation. So the reason I'm saying for you to practice, the mock presentation really gives you an opportunity to not just practice your presentation, but to hear from some of your colleagues, some other doctoral students, what worked in your presentation and what didn't work. So it'll give you some ideas on how to improve your presentation. So I always encourage doctoral students, whenever possible, before your actual proposal defense, go ahead and run a couple of mock presentations if you possibly can, so that you can get feedback from other people and make some improvements on your final presentation. So tip 4, run mock presentations. And finally, tip number 5, make eye contact. So you want to make eye contact with your committee members. You want to project, let your voice be heard all the way to the back of the room. And again, I am saying this for those of you that are defending in person. Most of the people and most of the defenses I attend now are in person. They're no longer online. If you're online, just make sure that you get a good microphone, you have a good camera for your presentation, right? But you want to project as you're doing your presentation. And you want to defend your position as a researcher respectfully, not defending it like you're fighting somebody. Instead, it's an opportunity for you to have a scholarly dialogue with your committee chair, your committee members, about the research that you're proposing. So I'll say again, make sure you have eye contact, you project, you can speak loud enough for everyone to hear you, and you defend your research and perspective respectfully. That's tip number 5. And that is it for today's presentation. Listen, if you have any questions about anything I've covered today in the video, please go ahead and leave those in the comments below. I'll respond as quickly as possible. Hey, thanks so much for watching today's video. I appreciate you engaging with the content here on The Woman is Scholar. Now, if you haven't already done so, please feel free to click the like button and also think about subscribing. That way you'll be notified whenever another video like this one comes out. Thanks so much for watching and have a terrific day.